dun, 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 dun.
The stream is live. Woohoo!
Yes, it is.
Balloons for
Hello.
everyone.
I hear there's a new Superman movie out.
There is a new Superman movie out, which
You
I have
don't
no.
say.
I don't know the last Superman movie I saw was the one with Parker Posey in it. Which one was that? I don't even know. The one
Parker
where
Posey was in a Superman movie?
yeah. She played the assistant to Lex Luthor or something. It was the one where
Oh,
Lex
that.
Luthor held
Yes, yes,
Lois Lane captive on his yacht next to a fax
yes,
machine.
yes. That was the. Oh, that was that. Yes, that movie does exist.
Oh,
I completely forgot Parker Posey was in it. So it was the Superman movie where Lex Luthor has a plan to steal land somewhere, a real
Uh-huh.
estate deal thing, because apparently that's all Lex Luthor can do in the movies. Um, that actor who played Superman was a good Superman. It was just a terrible script that they had to work it. He was such a good Superman, and he just unfortunately was just in a bad movie.
Like I just remember thinking to myself, there's if you're gonna kidnap someone and hold them for ransom, don't keep them next to a fax machine. That's just a bad idea.
You know,
Because she
he
faxed to
he
somebody and then got rescued.
Lex did nothing but make mistakes through that whole thing. My biggest my biggest qualm of that movie, and I don't even know if qualm is a word, is as an artist, you get hired to do certain things. He had to pay someone to do the blueprints to the destruction of the coastline and what his new landmass is going to be.
Uh-huh.
Now, did he get that artist to do that? And the artist is like, hey, he's just a crazy millionaire giving me money. Or are you going to go, hey, not to the crazy millionaire that's giving you money, but go after you turn it in, voucher and get your money, then go to the government and go, hey, I drew these up. I don't know if these are real.
Was he part of the plan or not?
I don't know. That's a great question. Because again, as an artist, is there is there a if you're drawing up evil plans for somebody, do you need to tell somebody, or you can go, I signed an NDA, so
I can't tell anybody.
I can't tell anyone. But it just seems like this seems to be a dangerous thing going on.
Let's
And
see
that
if
was like one of the odd things of that movie where I'm sitting there going, he has his master plan and he's giving us a presentation. Now, if it was a PowerPoint presentation, he might have done it himself. But he had
Mhm.
maps. He had full size, detailed, professionally done maps. I've had problems copying an image of Wolverine at a Kinko's. Where it's like, oh, you can't copy this. This is a copyrighted character. Yes, I drew this for Marvel. They're the one that requested me make copies. We can't do this. You could copy it yourself, but we're not going to do it for you. Okay, whatever. Just give me the image back so I can make copies. So, again, I that movie boggles my mind because of that. But again, that actor did a really good job as Superman.
Yeah.
And
And
sorry that he
speaking of
didn't get to
the
play his
new
real life.
Superman movie, I saw that Wilson got this too on his TikTok video. This is the Superman Treasury 2025. This is the Scott Koblish cover. So on this side, we've got all of the superheroes with Superman. And on this side, we've got the villains So a very cool one of these million. This one's sort of different than his other million figures covers, but very nice job by Scott on this one.
Yeah.
And
Wilson,
That is cool. I did not realize Scott did that. So
yeah.
here's mine. They gave me this huge bag to put it in. I could put an original piece of art in that. So I'd like to thank Midtown Comics for providing this because my small problem I had for Treasury editions as a kid was what can we put it in to not only display it, but to
Oh
keep
yeah,
it safe. So this is I guess, the generic cover
right.
for the book. I wasn't even aware Scott did one of the covers. I had ordered this, I think, a while back,
Yeah,
and because of that, I didn't realize it was such a large book. They
right.
don't seem to have, yeah, they don't have a page that shows the other covers. So
No,
I didn't know it was this size of a book, and they could not. When I went to Midtown, they couldn't find this week's books because the oversized book is kept with another set of
right.
kept somewhere else. So when they asked me, do I have an oversized book? I was like, no, I don't know why you can't find my books. Because
Not that I know.
not that I said I have no idea. They eventually found it. It is oversized. It's like, what book is oversized? And they took it out. Superman. It's like, I have
So
no
tr-
memory ordering. That's
Treasury
what
didn't give it away. I guess DC's calling them
Treasury did
Treasury now
not.
too.
It
Because
did
this
not.
is Superman Treasury 2025 semicolon he or colon Hero for All #1, and it's by Dan Jurgens story, Bruno Redondo art and cover, though I got the Scott Koblish cover, Caio Felipe ink assists, Adriano Lucas colors, and our old friend Dave Sharp on letters.
Very nice.
Resurrection sequence art by Dan Jurgens, Brett Breeding, and Adriano Lucas. Okay. But I got to say, you probably haven't read yours yet since you just got it
No,
today.
I have not.
I really enjoyed this. Well, first of all, Dan Jurgens is the writer, and he's a pretty solid Superman writer.
Yes.
And I also have to say, this really isn't necessarily for us longtime comics readers, though it's well crafted and well done. It's really, I think, to tie in with the Superman movie and kind of introduce Superman to the world at large, who isn't necessarily a comic book fan, but because it's really about who Superman is and the value of Superman, to the DC universe, kind of thing.
Right.
The story, it's the very basic plot is something we've seen before. Matter of fact, and a little bit of resemblance to the Dave Gibbons, Alan Moore Superman annual that was against Mongol, that was so good, where it's an alien invasion story. And as is typical of these alien invasion stories, first you move Superman or whoever off the board, then you have the alien invasion succeed, then Superman comes back onto the board and, wins. So that though the basic plot like that is familiar, it's well done. And the artwork is terrific. This what was his name?
Flipping through it, there are some areas where the artwork looks like it's 3D.
Bruno Redondo, who I haven't even
What?
heard of before. He did a terrific job on this. The color is terrific. The letters are, of course, terrific. His storytelling is really good. Nestor Redondo. It's sort of in an illustrative style, but it also has a lot of sort of expression to it and a lot of character. And I just really enjoyed reading it. I have to say, I was very surprised at how much I liked the artwork. There's a little bit of the artwork there. Whoops, there's Superman. The artwork is generally pretty open. and it lets the color do a lot of the work too, but it's very well drawn. The storytelling sequences are really good. All the characters are easy to distinguish and tell apart. I gotta say, I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this. And it's also I guess it would be, is it the New 52 Superman who has a wife and a son?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
Yes.
that Superman. So it's the New 52 Superman, and it really like I keep wanting to call him Nestor Redondo.
No, and they're not related.
Bruno Redondo. Oh, is it Redondo? Yeah, Redondo. Yeah. Do you know
Yeah,
him?
they're not related. Bruno Redondo was from Spain, and Nestor
Okay.
Redondo was part of the Filipino contingent.
Right. Like I said, I've never seen his work before, but it was terrific in here.
Production-wise, are your pages wavy?
Let's see. Not really. They seem to be about normal.
Okay.
Yeah, yours look much wavier.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just the humidity of the day, but all the pages have like this kind of, I don't know if it'll come up on the screen, kind of a wavy look to them. And maybe it didn't fully dried when it got bagged and board. Who knows?
Oh, man.
It was like,
I can see a little bit of waviness in mine, but I've seen worse. And it could also be where it is in the print run.
yes,
Yours
that's very
was
much
earlier
true.
in the print run where it was the plates were inked more.
Because the pages are very thin.
Yeah, they are.
And for a $14.99 price tag, I could see it as a nice introduction for Superman for people who
Oh,
are wanting to
this,
check it out from the from after watching the movie. The
yeah.
comic
I,
shop also had a big stand that
okay,
had a bunch of Superman books in it, and I've been seeing pictures online of those stands popping up in various places, like gas stations. So I
right.
think DC has been really pushing getting comic books into other places where they haven't been in years.
It's got some movie pictures. I assume this is the new movie Superman and Lois Lane.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. But like I said, they did a really nice job with that. I really love the Scott Koblish cover. But like I said, Bruno, like I said, and he did some stuff in here too, storytelling wise, where he would occasionally zoom in and go to this graphic design style.
Yeah, I find that pretty cool. I
He did
like the way that
that
looks.
really worked storytelling wise.
There's
So I'd say,
another one in there that looks like almost like you would need to wear 3D glasses for
yeah,
it, but
he
you don't. It's just a really interesting look to it.
he really understood the assignment too, and knew that this was going to be bigger. I think because he really used the page sizes to the advantage of the story. So I have to say, it surprised me how much I enjoyed this. Like I said, the story we've seen before, but I can certainly understand it. Why they, like I said, it's all about Superman and showing the world who Superman is, and Superman's value just to DC Comics in the world. So
Right.
it was a nice. I'm sure you'll enjoy reading it.
I'll have fun with it.
Yeah.
Speaking of Superman, I
Well,
also picked up.
I
Oh,
looked up
yes.
I looked up Bruno Redondo. So he's been working for the American market since 2009,
Oh wow.
almost exclusively for DC.
Uh-huh.
And I guess he must have sent in a portfolio to get reviewed because he has a few Spanish comics, mostly independent. He did a Don Quixote graphic novel in 2007, and that was the last thing he did domestically. After that, it's all been DC.
What has he been drawn for DC? Superman or any?
Uh, it The first thing he did was called Push. I think he did the Human Target,
Okay.
and then he did most of Injustice: Gods Among Us.
Human Target, was that like? I remember people liking a Human Target miniseries from a few years ago. Maybe he was the. I remember people specifically liking the art, so maybe that was
Yeah, I
him.
was wondering because when you said Human Target, it tinkled a memory where it was like, oh, was he the one that did that I think 6-issue series or 12?
Yeah, I just
That was
remember
the one.
everybody liking it and everybody praising the artwork, especially. But I don't remember who the artist was. But if it was
Then,
him, I know why they're praising him because he did an
yeah,
excellent job with that.
Yeah.
yeah, then he did Superman, some Batman, Suicide Squad. He had a run, Justice League, a big run on Nightwing into a
Okay.
few years ago.
Oh, I wonder
And
if he's the. You know what? Maybe he's the one who did that Nightwing issue I have. That was like one continuous panel. I think that could have been him. I'm gonna have to look.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to look and see because there was this one issue of Nightwing that I bought just because of the gimmick,
Right.
where it was you could lie it end to end, and it was one like Nightwing would run throughout the page. It was like how they do those multi-figure flash drawings. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it was,
Yeah.
except the whole story was told that way.
Pretty cool. I know who used to also do that. Oh, he used to draw Daredevil, and I think went over to Nightwing. And Bill Reinhold, was that him?
I remember him from the Badger.
and Punisher.
Yeah.
Oh, the name's escaping me.
Yeah. Let me look over here and see. I got Redondo.
Sequential Geek is with us and he's enjoying the herbs and the beer. Yeah. There's a
Don't
bunch of
see the comics.
There's a bunch of European guys who go straight to American and they don't work at on local productions anymore.
Hey, why
Like
not if they're
like
paying
yeah,
more?
Yeah,
like
pretty
all those
much.
Italian like all those Italian comics you buy from Image. That
Yeah.
thing's not Italian.
I was
Nope.
thinking of Scott McDaniel.
Scott McDaniel. Okay.
That's who I was thinking about, who did some of that type of thing where he did it in Daredevil, where he kind of did the old Jack Kirby, you follow Spider-Man leaping around the page around the
Right.
city. So he did that with Daredevil for a while, and he did it a few times with Nightwing.
I remember he had a very graphic designy style too, didn't he?
Yes,
Which was unusual for the time.
very much so. He designed Daredevil's costume, which could only be drawn by him.
Yeah, he had a real
Any
Yeah.
weird psychedelic design
Yeah,
sort of thing
any other
going.
person that would draw that Daredevil costume, it's like, oh yeah, it doesn't look good. So once he
Yeah.
was off the book, I don't think Daredevil kept that costume too long because he I think it was in a way he was smart to be the only artist who could draw it, but it just didn't work.
Yeah, that was probably either the third or fourth time where they were trying to convince people that Daredevil was not Matt Murdock.
One of those times.
Here's Eric P. His Nightwing has a continuous panel in the issue that is from Nightwing's POV. Okay,
Okay.
so it is the one that you have.
I think
Oh,
so.
okay.
Got to find out where I put it.
Very cool.
Da-da-da-da.
Speaking of Superman, I also picked up the facsimile of it, Adventure Comics, issue number
Yeah.
210, the first
Mhm.
appearance of Crypto, the super dog, which is funny because after I recorded my haul, all I said was, "Oh, Crypto, the dog." It's like I should have put more respect on that. It's Crypto, the super dog, and I figured I'll open it tonight because it's supposed to maybe
Right.
have that golden ticket
It's on the inside front
to,
cover.
to
It'll
see
say
the
you've lost. Sorry.
to see the Superman premiere that I think already happened.
Yeah.
So that'll be funny if I win.
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody win.
Yeah, because
Wonder
you
if
never know
nobody claims the tickets.
where it's going to end up. You know.
My TV turned on without me turning it on, and now I can't turn it off.
Okay. Put this bag a little better. All right. So we're going to check on the inside. I won't know. You guys will know before me. It's the inside cover.
Inside front cover.
And here we go. Sorry,
you didn't
win.
win.
Oh no. Look at that. Thank you for comic book for making me a loser. I was fine 5 minutes ago. I've never read the crypto story.
I hadn't either.
Here's some artwork in there.
Ooh, is that win boring?
I think so. That looks like him. Let's see if it even says it, because this time period. It does not say. But I think that looks more like boring than it does. Yeah, because I don't know if Kurt Swan was doing the Superboy books.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, because all of these legions are by Kurt Swan, most of them at least.
Oh, okay. And then we have a Green Arrow backup, and that guy looks like he's from Dick Tracy. But
Flat top.
Exactly who he looks like. All right, so I'll look forward to it, even though the book called me a loser, or I'm not a winner. Golden Biscuit Sweepstakes. I would guess those are for dogs.
And speaking of facsimiles, I picked up this week Fantastic Four #7 facsimile.
Oh, I grabbed that as well.
I don't think I've ever read Fantastic Four #7.
Mm-hmm.
And the question: have you guys ever read Fantastic Four #7?
That's the Kurgo issue, right?
Kurgo issue. Is there an error at the end of this? Because I couldn't exactly figure out what was happening. Have you read this, Paolo? Do you remember it at all?
No.
Okay. So Kurgo is the master of Planet X. And the whole plot is Planet X has a, I don't know, giant asteroid or something on it, coming towards it to destroy everyone on Planet X. And so they decide to kidnap the Fantastic Four to see if Reed Richards can save them. They send this giant robot to kidnap the Fantastic Four. He does. He gets them onto Planet X. But then the plan Reed Richards comes up with, there's the coming up with a plan page, is to, because though this is a super advanced civilization and planet, they only ever built 2 spaceships because they don't like to go places.
Yeah.
You know, they like to stay home. So Reed Richards comes up with a plan to use reducing gas on the entire, all 5 billion people on the planet. That way they can fit into one spaceship and go to a new planet. So he does that, but then Kurgo, then they only built 2 spaceships. So the Fantastic Four are taking the whole planet is in one spaceship. The Fantastic Four are taking the second spaceship home. But meanwhile, Kurgo gets it into his head, because the whole idea was to go to a new planet and then use enlarging gas to make them regular size again. But Kurgo was like, I'll only enlarge myself, and then I'll rule over everybody like they were ants. except he doesn't make it on. Except they leave without him. And Reed Richards, he's clinging on to the enlarging gas canister because that was going to be, and then Fantastic Four leave on the other ship. It says 1,000 miles away, and Sue says, "Are you sure the enlarging gas will work when they reach their new planet, Reed? After all, you've never had time to test it." Then he says, "There was no reducing gas, Sue. It was just an empty projectile. I only told them about it so they could consent to my plan. But once they reach their new world, it won't matter. They'll all be the same size, and in the vast universe of ours, one size is only relative anyway." I think that's supposed to say there was no enlarging gas, because right there it says there was no reducing gas.
Yeah.
And clearly there was reducing gas because they all fit on the ship.
Yes.
Mhm.
I agree that has to be a mistake that I guess was never caught, or they decided this was the original mistake in it, so they're going to keep it in there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happen, but I've never heard it like. And as far as I know, I've never heard about this strange. Wouldn't it, what was that Marvel No Prize book? Was it in that? I don't remember it being in that.
I don't
Oh,
think
if it
so.
was, because the no prize stuff looks like it was later issues
Yeah.
of the Fantastic Four. I
But-
think they concentrate. I don't recall if they did go back to the 60s because they talked about the Spider-Man mistake when Doc Ock called him
Yeah,
Superman.
that one's famous.
Yeah.
Everyone's always mentioned that. But this,
So this one
I,
may
I've
have gotten through and no one ever
No one
talked
noticed.
about
Yeah.
it. Nobody noticed because I don't
Stan
even
Lee wasn't even
recall.
reading his own comics.
Oh, he was probably reading them. He just didn't care.
Which reminds me,
Yeah, I don't know.
we were going to talk about Jim Shooter tonight. And a Jim Shooter tie-in I saw this week. What we got from Sequential Geek.
Yeah. He's met Jim Shooter at Mile High in 2022.
Ah,
Very cool, very nice, engaging person. Not going to sending or acting tired like Ryan Thomas.
this is the Roy Thomas tie-in. Roy Thomas. Nice.
Yeah, no. Scott Connor sent me a link to an interview with Claire Noto.
Yeah, which was interesting. He sent me that link too, but strangely enough, I discovered it like the day before too on Blue Sky. Who I didn't know, I didn't even realize. I'm not, what was her name?
Claire Noto.
Claire
She
Noto.
wrote the Red Sonja issues with the bikini chainmail.
Right. She wrote. She also is, I guess, a well-known Hollywood scriptwriter. Even though I don't think a lot of her stuff was made into movies from reading that interview. And it was
She had a big movie. She does a lot of rewrites, which is why she doesn't always show up.
And she had a very famous
if you do rewrite,
She had a very famous script at like the beginning of her career that never got made into a movie. That was funny too, Hollywood. And also, I don't know if it was because of her age or whatever, but it was hard to understand some of the interview, what she was saying.
Yeah, the guy who did the interview is not a very good writer, so that thing was not very well transcribed.
Yeah, I don't know who to blame that on, but it was like tough to figure out what she was saying sometimes in the interview. Like I don't know if that was her, the interview, but the part that I found, because like I said, she was listed as the co-writer on the very first Red Sonja series. Back, was that the late 70s or early 80s? I can't remember.
I think it's the one in the Marvel feature stories.
Yeah, that Frank Thorne drew.
Yeah.
Well, it was also her own series too, right? I can't remember. But anyway, she was setting the record straight on who wrote because she's only listed as co-writer on those issues. Which she never, that was a surprise to her when she was listed as co-writer, because she wrote them all full script. And she was friends with Roy Thomas. And I also said I didn't realize for 12 years she dated Steve Gerber. But this is how it ties into Jim Shooter, because I'd always heard, when Jim Shooter took over Marvel, one of the things he had to clean up Marvel, and they always said he had to clean up and bring order to the disorder. And one of the things he did was get rid of editor writers. For those of you who don't know, it's the editor who usually hands out the work to the writers. And in Marvel in the 70s, the editor handed out the work to themselves, which I could see being a problem, but I could also see it not being a problem. Like I was always wondered, I was like, well, what is there really to clean up there? Because they never said. But now, after reading this, I know why Jim Shooter had to clean that up and why Roy Thomas quit after he did.
Yeah, there's the thing is, while working at Marvel, and I'm sure you found this out as well, is that whenever I asked about Marvel history type stuff, oh, you were here
Right.
during this time period, what was that like? And I recall asking a Jim Shooter question, and every answer I got back was like, he was a tyrant. It wasn't fun to work here. And when I look back at it, and I think about the people who told those stories, I also think about, yeah, but you were also a problem person, because I've heard stories about them as well.
Right.
The only difference between them and Shooter is that they outlasted Shooter
Yeah.
at Marvel. So, again, it's one of those things where it's like, in between somewhere, there's some of the truth, because I would hear stories from other people, mostly artists, and they always had really nice things to say about Shooter.
I always heard that freelancers, Shooter was usually good to the freelancers, but tough on editorial. But if this story is being tough on editorial, like I said, the woman who wrote Red Sonja, and this is the first time she's ever been interviewed too.
Right.
She was like a golden age comic fan, so she liked comics back then. She was an artist. I think she said she studied art and sculpture at a Boston college. Then she left Boston College. I don't know if it's Boston College or a Boston College, I forget. But then she went to New York and she started doing, I think, some kind of production work for ABC TV. Because she said that was a pretty good job and she got paid pretty well. And then she eventually, after that, she moved out to, see, it's tough, the exact timeline in this article. I'm not sure if she wrote comics and then moved out to California, or moved out to California and then wrote comics. But she wanted to be a screenwriter too, so she moved out to California to be a screenwriter. And her first script was a hit called, I think it was The Tourist. I don't remember why I remember that. But when I say hit, it was sold. A lot of movie studios wanted to make it. People fought over it, but it never got made. But she earned a reputation for being a good script writer, so she got other script writing work. Meanwhile, she's friends with Roy Thomas, and Roy Thomas wanted to be a script writer too, and there's just stories. But anyway, here's where the shenanigans come in. Roy Thomas hires her to write Red Sonja. I believe the number she gave was she didn't get a page rate. Roy Thomas gave her $100 an issue to write Red Sonja. Then she said he got the page rate. I think she got the page rate wrong, because she said $450 or $500 a page. I think that was for the whole comic, because nobody was getting $450.
That
in 1977.
Yeah, that sounds like for the whole book.
Yeah. So she was writing the whole book, got $100. Then she sees when it's printed, she figured Roy would just be editing it, which is what he did. But he's got co-writer credit, and he pocketed the difference. So she was writing the entire book for $100. He was writing nothing and pocketed $350 or $400.
Wow.
So that's why Jim Shooter had to get rid of writer artists. And they mentioned that wasn't the only time Roy Thomas had done that. He would farm things out to other. Matter of fact, I can't remember. They mentioned at the time he would do that to his other, like Marv Wolfman or whoever. He would ghostwrite stuff for Roy Thomas, and the fans at the time started noticing. They're like, "This isn't written by Roy Thomas."
Hmm.
And they started, mentioning that in the press. So he got mad at that or something like that. It was interesting. But that is the shenanigans Jim Shooter had to clean up when he first got there. And that's why Roy Thomas quit being an editor at Marvel and took off and was an editor, at DC or something, because his gravy train ended.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, John Buscema was plotting out the Conan stories without any indication from Shooter. It was that thing. Here's Robert E. Howard's story. Copy it.
Yeah, that's what Barry Windsor Smith said. He would just send him Conan stories with some parts highlighted.
Roy would.
Yeah.
And that.
Roy
Okay.
would.
I think Pablo said
So
Shooter.
now I understand why Jim Shooter had to clean up the writer-editor thing. Because the editor was giving himself a kickback on the writing.
Wow. Wow.
Amazing when you find out this stuff happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Sequential Geek, and we're not going to see Superman. We talked about it before you came in.
No.
No, we're not.
I haven't received an invite for free tickets, so I have to check my schedule with my brother and sister. I like seeing movies with them, so I don't know if it will be this weekend or after I come back from San Diego Comic-Con.
And the
So
last
I have not
Superman
decided.
story I've seen is the one with Parker Posey. That was
Yeah, enjoy SG.
I think that was the Man of Steel.
Man
That's
of
the name
Steel.
that. Man of Steel.
No one ever mentions that about Jim Shooter until recently, the separation of editor-writer. Well, the first time, back when Comic Book Resources was a website about comics, I do remember it was the first time Jim Shooter had done an interview for an online publication. So this is probably around 2000, 2001. I had it saved somewhere on a Word document, but I think I lost it.
Yeah,
I've mentioned it.
I've heard them say he had to clean that up, but I never heard an explanation.
Right. I've heard a bunch of little stories of things that he cleaned up, such as the subscriptions. Because kids will, because back then you could get 8 books for 50 cents. You had a kid, fill out the information, send in their 50 cents. And what we find out later is that one of the women at Marvel, one of the secretaries at Marvel, would open it up, take the little tag information, get that, toss that in the garbage, and pocket the 50 cents. And so he ended up cleaning that up because there was quite a few people saying that, we order books and we don't get it.
Yeah.
And that was that I read from Jim's own blog that he had, where he talks about some of the stuff that he did over the years. Because he would ask, the fans at conventions, "Hey, what can we do to fix stuff?" And there was plenty of them that said, one person said about the subscription. And then Jim asked, anyone else have this problem? And quite a few hands raised at that con. And then he went back and found out this is where the paper trail ends, that it went to this point.
Yeah, and John Reporton had the scheme to pay writers and artists to do nothing, and then he would commission a story. So and Jim Shooter found out about it because he was scheduled to be paid for a story that he had never heard of.
That was, I read that was because John Verporten was a soft touch.
Mm.
So especially I think it was Jerry Conway who
Oh yeah, Jerry Conway had that thing going on where at the time that he was one of the times that he was fired from Marvel and went to DC because he was getting money for comics that were
he wasn't. What it was John Verporten was a soft touch, they said. So if you needed money, he would let you voucher for comics you hadn't done yet. So it was like, you're the regular Spider-Man artist. You need a little extra money this week. He'll let you voucher for pages that you're gonna hand in next week. And where it went wrong was with Jerry Conway was a writer at Marvel, and he was looking to get a job he was looking to move from Marvel to, I think, a staff job on DC. The problem was he vouchered so far ahead that he it was like $70,000 worth of work that he vouchered for that he never did. Because John Verporten was a soft touch and was like, and Jerry was like, oh, so Marvel and DC had to work out a settlement where DC gave Marvel some money so they could hire Jerry Conway. I think that's how the story goes that I read recently. But it was the number I had read that, because I would figure, a few $1,000 maybe you'd get in the hole, you'd ask for ahead. But it was like, I can't remember the number exactly, but it was like 50, 70, maybe even 100,000. It was like a crazy number of how much they paid him before he did the work. Because it's like, that's like more comics than he'll do in a year.
Yeah, you would have to be doing 4 monthlies for a whole year to get that.
It was just like, 70s. Wow.
That kind of reminds me of what was going on within the Punisher offices. At least work was created. Now you would have inventory stories, and what that was is that you came in as an artist, and an editor will, here's a story that will run somewhere, kind of a thing. It was a tryout, or I guess it would be the same that, one of our artists needs work, but we don't have anything on the schedule. Here's an inventory story to do, and we'll hold on to it till we need it because we're running late or something like that. And so many inventory stories were being put out in the Punisher office, and stacks of comics. I do not know what the number was, but I believe there was a record for the most inventory stories bought and paid for sitting in the offices. That eventually all went to be returned, and some of that stuff I don't think ever saw print.
And then, of course, the other voucher scam that Jim Shooter had to put in it. There's only one person, Gil Kane. Gil Kane would double voucher. For those of you who don't know the way things worked at Marvel, like I said, the editors hired the artists. So you'd hire the artist to do 20 pages of Spider-Man. He would draw 5 pages of Spider-Man. Let's say that's what he got done that week. He would fill out a voucher, piece of paper with carbons. So you give your copy, Marvel has their copy, 1 copy for the records. You'd bring your 5 pages in, give them to the editor, say, editor, could you sign my voucher? Sure, the editor signs the voucher. Then the voucher goes up to Millie, who was in charge of payroll. Millie looks at the voucher, puts it in the phone, make sure you get paid. What Gil Kane was doing was double vouchering. I think it may have been Louise Simonson who was his editor. So like normal, he would go in 5 pages, voucher it, send it up to Millie. But what he would also do, near the end of the day, he'd go into Jim Shooter's office, editor-in-chief, who could also sign vouchers. Of course, he's the boss. And he'd go, Jim, Louise is out. I'm about to head home. Could you sign my voucher, so I can get it in process. Jim, of course, would sign the voucher to go up to Millie. Eventually, Millie was like, "How come? How come he vouchered for 30 pages in a 20-page book?" And after that, Gil Kane was persona non grata at Marvel. Well, actually, I don't know if it was that or him stealing the art. Which one he was not allowed.
I don't know
Probably
which
stealing.
one caused it
Which
for
one
him.
caught? Well,
No.
whichever one, because he was also caught stealing other people's art. And like I said, in the 90s, I never met Gil Kane. He was still doing some work for Marvel, but I never saw him up there. And I was told he's persona non grata. He's not allowed to
Yeah,
come up to the office.
I had only spoke to him on the phone.
Yeah.
And I had no idea any of that was going on until after he passed away, and a few years later, I heard some stories, and um, I heard more of the stories after. Again, he passed away, and it was passed for a couple of years. When we moved to the next set of offices on 40th Street, um, Ben Abernathy went to the warehouse that was in California, the Salt Flats warehouse where they kept the film and stuff like that, some negatives and what have you, because they're in these giant salt mines type stuff.
Right.
While there, he found some original artwork that they had sent back to me, and there were a ton of Gil Kane covers.
Oh, wow.
Quite a few of them, Daredevil covers and stuff like that. Do not know why that group of covers were out there. And so it's like, okay, let me track down who they go to because Gil had passed. And it was, we end up finding his wife. And it was one of those things. It's like, okay, we can get it sent to his wife. And it was like a godsend to her because he left her with so many bills from what I heard. And again, it was one of those things like these covers were cool. And it was funny because they end up going to whoever was his art rep at the time. It's like, yeah, don't mention to anyone that you just got all these covers onto the market because that's going to shoot down the price. And it's like, I'm not part of that market. I'm just letting you know what's coming to her, kind of a thing. So it was like, again, and of course, finding out later. Don't know if it ever happened, but I was dealing with. I don't think I dealt with her directly. It was more like one of the bosses at Marvel was like, "Oh, I know her. I'll give her a call." And I think he was setting a way to get like, "Oh, we found these all for you. Let me get one of them." So it was like, "Geez." When it comes to artwork, it's like everyone seems to want to have sticky fingers.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so let's go over some comments. Perlman bought Marvel in '88, so that was after Shooter left. Yeah. When Shooter was fired, he was trying to get more money for the creators and to get some of his projects going on, like trying to get the new universe to keep on running. And the owners, Cadence Corporation, they were trying to save as much money as possible so they could get the best value out of Marvel from the new buyer who ended up being Perlman. In the meantime, Shooter managed to get a financier. He was in the running to also buy Marvel, but Perlman outbid him in the bank that was pushing him. There was also some Michael Jackson involvement at the time. Yeah, there was also rumors that he was going to buy Marvel.
In 1986, New World Entertainment bought Marvel's parent company, Marvel Entertainment Group, and a year later, the new owners fired Mr. Shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. So I just remember. So New World Entertainment. I guess they didn't own them for very long, huh?
No, I think they were going to try to do movies and stuff like that.
I just remember reading that in Jim Shooter's obituary, so I went and looked. And he had an obituary in the New York Times. But the reason I always heard Jim Shooter was fired, and this is from Inside Marvel, was that he went over his boss's head. Once again, I think I don't even remember what it was about. He went. It was a chain of, like, I don't know if this is just an excuse, it was a chain of command thing where Jim Shooter, I don't know, was wanted something, which I don't think was that outrageous, that his boss was saying no to and no to. So then he went to his boss's boss, who was like, no, get out of here. You go through the chain of command. And that was why he was fired. I don't know if that was an excuse or if that was real.
Well, it does sound plausible and
Yeah, it
would
does
have
sound
given
plausible.
it is a good excuse to get him fired.
Yeah.
Because if they were trying to come up with a reason to fire him, that was the perfect
Right.
one, and he probably was careless because I guess one of the reasons that that people were complaining a lot about his behavior is because he's in a position where he has to deal with the suits and what the suits want and market value, and then he has to on the other side he has to deal with the complaints from the creator side. And ultimately he has to side with the corporation because he's an employee of the corporation.
Yep.
And so we probably made a mistake when he shouldn't have, and that's what got him fired. If he saw it coming, he probably saw it as a possibility, but he was trying to hold off as long as possible, because if he was still there when it all smoothed out, he probably thought he could make it go back to what it was. But when you have a new owner, the new owner has new priorities. So things that were true the year before, they're no longer true. So they could come in and say, no, we're going to kill your new universe. But it's also what they told DeFalco. DeFalco, okay, so can we reduce the number of books? No, we can't. In fact, you're going to do more of them. That's why from 88 to 91, there was that push to launch a gazillion books, and they brought a bunch of characters back that nobody had done any work with them, like Ghost Rider, and they created the New Warriors. There was also, they could get more books. She was 26 years old. Yeah, but that's not out of the ordinary, because when Roy quit being editor, so he could because he was making more money as a writer, Marv, Len, Jerry, they were all young.
If you look at all of the a lot of the people who work at Marvel now, they're all young. All those assistant editors, they're really young.
I don't know. They don't seem young. They seem like they're 30, but they haven't done anything.
No, they're in their 20s. A lot of them the ones I pop up, I notice they're in their 20s, the assistants. Maybe the full editors are a little older.
Yeah. I feel like Roy Thomas needs to just come. Roy Thomas is not going to come clean at anything. He's got the grift going on.
Yeah.
In fact, he's going to push it even more. That's why he did that thing about he co-created Wolverine so that he could get money from the movie.
His attitude, they say, is I'm next in line.
Yeah, so you saw cool.
Okay.
Every piece of the Superman movie. You like Roy Thomas Conan? Well,
I was okay with it.
Yeah,
I like the art mostly.
Here's the thing: Roy was drawing on all of the Robert E. Howard stories, plus a few of the hangers-on who had the control of the property, like Al Sprague de Camp and Lynn Carter. But even then, those two were professional hacks. So Roy had enough good material to copy to keep the story flowing for years.
And John Buscema.
Right.
Speaking of Conan, I picked up Savage Sword of Conan, number 10, number 9, with a Neil Adams sketch turned into a color cover. But it's got Patrick Zurcher, story and art in it, who also has been doing Solomon Kane, which I got this week. And this was terrific. This may have been the best Conan comic I've read in a long time. My one criticism is that it's not longer. I think it was, let me see how many pages, 50 pages? A 49 page, just maybe 48 pages. It could have been twice as long. It's with Conan and what's her name? The Valyria? Valyria, Pirate, who I think is from Red Nails. Because they mention Red. I haven't read Red Nails in so long, but it says this this particular story takes place right after another story ended, and they mentioned this post with a whole bunch of red nails in it, which I don't remember from Red Nail. But this may take place right after that, and it's just the art is terrific, the writing is good. It's about Conan and Valyria right after the Red Nails adventure, going to Shem, was it? Getting captured by the king and sent on a mission, and it was just a really, really good Conan story. So if you're looking for a good Conan story, pick up Savage Sword #9. Patrick Zurcher, whose work I'm liking more and more. Not that I've seen a ton of it.
Yeah. Was Gil Kane like one of those guys that sells people's homes without letting them know? Almost, I guess.
I think, he was looking, well, stealing other people's art isn't good. Double vouchering at Marvel, to me, that's a victimless crime.
Almost.
Almost. But stealing other people's art, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy didn't just have the new universe and that way. I don't think he was interested in that. The new universe, in his mind, was always supposed to be that one thing. But a lot of other writers ended up bringing new universe concepts into the Marvel universe. So Peter David used Justice as the net profit in Spider-Man 2099. During the Star Blast crossover, Mark Grunwald brought over Antibody from DP7, and he gave Quasar the Star brand. And then we had the Star brand and Night Mask used in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers. So the concepts are around if anybody would care to use them.
And I pulled this down just to show it off.
I mean, Werewolf by Lunchtime. I, for one, am glad we didn't get any Amazing Bubbles comics.
I just want to show this off briefly. I missed the whole Jim Shooter Valiant era. I just wasn't interested in Valiant. But I picked this up like 10 years ago, and it's signed by Jim Shooter and numbered 1639 out of 2000. It was just at my LCS in a clearance bin, so I picked it up for $5. I got to say, it was a good comic. Like, I was like, oh, I can understand why people liked these Valiant comics. Me reading it 20 years later.
Right. For me, for Valiant, it was more of like, here's this new universe type of thing that so many people were talking about.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, let me go get a couple of issues. And I think I was more interested in the fact that there was a lot of speculations on those books. And those were like, I think, really hit hard on, these are very expensive. You go into a comic shop and you missed an issue, they went up in price real quick. So I don't recall if they did the numbering system as well. I forget which company was doing that, but one of the companies were printing in the books how many issues were printed. And it would have like practically not a coupon, but an attached piece of paper that said the print number and what number that book was. So that was another thing going on.
Oh, it's individually numbered?
Individually numbered around that time period. I just don't recall if it was Valiant was doing that for like their first year run. And then they introduced that 0 issue.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a hot thing to try to get. And the thing that worked was that they were good stories. It wasn't only the gimmick of this stuff, but the stories were good and solid.
Like I said, that Harbinger trade is pretty solid. I liked it. But does anyone remember the Valiant timeline in terms of, because I think they started like earlier than I remember.
Yeah, 3 years before the Valiant Universe, they did Nintendo Comics,
Okay.
and
So they,
and I think they had the rights to WWF as well.
because I
Okay.
remember there was like two, at least three distinct Valiant periods in that time. There was Valiant, I only knew in hindsight because I go, oh, they started a few years earlier than I thought. Then there was Valiant when they were first getting hot, and like you said, those early issues were, but I guess they weren't hot from the very beginning, where they couldn't have been because otherwise they would have had more issues.
No,
Um,
I don't think they. I think they gradually became hot.
right. So I don't know when I noticed them because
I
it's like I couldn't. Being that I didn't read any of the comics, I couldn't have noticed them right away. I only noticed them when they started getting hot, and early issues, especially, were high in price. And then there became the big print run Valiant, where
Right, so
nothing was hot anymore because that was like gimmick Valiant.
mhm. So that were probably the Unity crossover and the number 0 issues are about a year after Solar number 1, and so this would be around mid 92, I guess.
So it was pretty
Just
quickly they became hot, and then
yeah, because Image
became
wasn't there
gimmicky.
yet.
Right.
Right, because Shooter formed Voyager Communications in 1989 with the
Okay.
with the financier, and then it became Valiant, and then in 1991 they released their first titles, which is Magnus Robot Fighter.
91 was their first
Nine,
title.
91 was the first
Okay.
title for that Valiant book.
For that
It looks
Valiant.
like it looks like they skip over the stuff they were right beforehand, because I think maybe the uh the Voyager Communications might have done a couple of those licensed books.
Right.
Yeah, so 91, and then Raw number 0 became Wizard's top 10 list. So I think Wizard magazine also was a contributing factor
Mm-hmm.
of Valiant's rise as well.
Right, because they get hot just as Wizard had a very rapid growth in the first year.
Yeah, I guess it
Yeah.
went pretty fast.
Yes,
So
because I
what?
remember they were everywhere, and Valiant, I think, was one of those books that you could find in newsstands. So it wasn't only stuck in, because I remember buying, I think the first Valiant book I bought was at a local newspaper stand near me at the time, where I picked up uh I want to say it was probably Harbinger was the first one that I found.
And this trade is 92,
Mhm.
which is early. I mean, there wasn't a lot of stuff in trade then. And I never realized, I remember until hindsight, that this is where David Lapham got his start too.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
did
The Lapham was the first guys who did the Valiant Universe. So Barry Windsor Smith followed Shooter.
Mm-hmm.
No questions asked.
Right.
Bob Layton went after Shooter because I guess he had burned his bridges at Marvel.
Uh-huh.
And then Shooter decided to give a job to all of the old guys that he knew. So you get a lot of Don Perlin in there.
Don Perlin was art director too.
Yeah, and Stan Drake as well. He was inking. There's some Barry Reese.
Well, I didn't realize Janet Jackson was the editor of this too.
Yeah, because she was.
She went with Jim
Right.
to that, and she's been posting a bunch of stuff on Facebook, photos and whatnot.
There are a couple of. I was actually looking at the credits earlier today. There's a bunch of guys that he launched who went nowhere. But the first one, but because it was either the old guys or new guys that nobody had heard of. So David Lapham was one of them, and there was a few guys that went nowhere. They were only in the business for 5 or 6 years. But then about 1 or 2 years in the Valiant universe, he discovered Sean Chan. He discovered Jim Calafiore. He published some Joe Quesada right after Sword of Azrael, before X Factor. So yeah, he was discovering a lot of guys. He also did stuff with Mike Manley after he was at Marvel.
By the way, you know who writes the introduction to this volume? Garib Sheamus, president, publisher, Wizard Press.
Why not?
And if I remember correctly, that trade paperback also came with issue 0. And that was the only way you can get issue 0 because that came polybagged with issue 0. So yeah, I would bet that they was close to talking to each other and doing stuff because I think Wizard magazine eventually printed extra stuff. Like the cards were printed through Wizard magazine. They did, their own set of cards. Say what you want about Wizard. They were really good at just putting so much stuff in the package that you got a lot. The books were always polybagged. So you got comics, you got cards, you got stickers, stuff like that where, they had a good relationship with the publishers, giving the information back and forth. So that's how that, both sets grew out of that.
So, not that I'm an autograph collector, but this is my one autograph of Jim Shooter.
Yeah, I thought I might have had Jim's autograph in that Marvel book, the 1975 convention book, but it wasn't in that. I didn't have his autograph in that.
You know what's funny too? I remember this autograph, which is over the logo there, being inside there. So I pulled this down off the shelf and started looking at the inside pages. And I was like, I could have sworn it was, because I can remember when I bought this, I didn't know it was autographed by Shooter. And then when I read it, I was like, oh, look, it's autographed by Shooter. So, but I probably didn't see it because it blends right in with the logo. That's why it took me a minute to see it.
Okay. And back then, everything moved so fast from Valiant because then he's creating Defiant in 1993.
Yeah,
right. Because that's when he got fired.
Zurcher book, just to show it off for a minute. This is 4 of 4. The Serpent Ring by Solomon Kane. I'll just show this off quickly. So once again, I'm really enjoying his art. Coloring, storytelling. Good stuff. Just show that for a minute.
I do like Zurcher. I have a few Thunderbolts that he did way back then.
Okay.
Okay, so some more comments. Valiant, so much better story-wise than anything Image was publishing around the same time, right? Yeah. Because Jim Shooter was in charge of Valiant, and nobody was in charge of Image.
Right.
Yeah.
And Shooter's a pretty good writer.
Yeah.
I mean, I always when I first thought Shooter was a good writer was on the Korvac saga, on the Avengers, which there we go, Korvac saga, which of course suffers from George Perez leaving it before the end. Otherwise, it could have been a classic, but.
Howler Mouse, David Lapham just kept showing up at Valiant offices. They eventually just gave him the job and molding him. I think he lived in New Jersey.
Okay. Yeah, because I never heard of, being that I didn't read Valiant, I never heard of David Lapham before Stray Bullets. So I always thought he was like a straight up indie guy, but no, he's drawing superheroes. Valiant.
You think because their covers were not all full of exaggerated physiques and action lines over everything, no one checked out their books then at the time. But they did check out the books. That's the thing. The Valiant comics were hot.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people liked them.
Valiant comics were among the best-selling comics in the early 90s. They really were.
I would say that kids were buying the Image books, and more adults were buying the Valiant books.
And
Like
Valiant was around slightly before Image, so they got.
yes,
Yeah, and the Valiant did not outsell Image, but I would say that the climate that allowed that Wizard helped build about hot books helped create the all of the hype around Image. So without creating that sense of rare issue around Valiant keys, Image would not have been as successful as it could as it eventually was.
yeah,
And
because
Spawn was the best-selling comic for a few years too.
and I think it comes down to also that whenever there was a first appearance of a character for Valiant, that became a hot book for a long time. It stayed hot when they had first appearances. I think even with the reintroducing the gold key characters was something as well. So I think that that may have had, and I'm only guessing, but I think that may have had an older audience that liked the traditional comic book stories that were coming out of Valiant because they had the house style down pack. The coloring was beautiful because everything was just about painted, and they were using characters that still had a popularity. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you if they brought up the prices of the gold key books, if anyone went searching for those. Because I still remember like finding and buying Magnus Robot Fighter Gold Key books, and they didn't cost as much as the Valiant counterparts. So it didn't raise those prices, but it kept the prices of Valiant themselves pretty high. And I can say I do remember some good stories with it. And they did a time travel stuff, that major crossover, and it helps that you got Frank Miller to do the covers
Hmm.
to those. So there was a lot. I think they had a lot going for them at that time because recognizable names for the most part, and you know, Wizard Magazine helping out at that part too.
Yeah, I got it. You don't worry. I understood the context. Uh, yeah. Well, he was thinking young blood, but he typed Arbiter. No problem. I understood.
What was Tim saying about the Zero issue that came with this?
Yeah, so I guess that's a reprint variant, the one that came out with the trade.
So the Zero issue that came with the trade, they had all sorts of gimmicks going on.
Oh, completely. You know, they get you because if you already bought the original books, why get the trade? But it's like this has a Zero issue because that's how it got me.
Different.
Yeah,
Fear of
Shooter.
missing out.
I remember Jim Shooter either on his blog or in that interview, in the CBR interview, he was laying the blame for the gimmicks on the financier.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
I mean that's what come up with them.
But then again, I guess it wasn't as blatant as what became the industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
With at least with the early issues of Valiant.
Does anybody? I don't think I've read it in a while. Does anybody know the story of Jim Shooter leaving Valiant? What shenanigans going on there?
Yeah. So they were trying to sell the silent partners were trying to sell the company.
Ah, okay.
And then Masarsky was sleeping with the one of the silent partners.
Ah.
Yeah, that's how they got rid of him.
They're like, we're trying to sell this. So let's get rid of this guy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was stupid that they screwed him over, but it was like, yeah, I could see them trying to sell that at the time they were selling because it was hot, and
They were
eventually
just looking to make money.
they were looking to make the money, you know, to create the company. It was a hot commodity, sell because, you know, eventually people may realize, oh, all these extra covers and all this numbering and all that, you know, again, it just was lucky that they happened to be really good books.
Yeah. Well, like I said, they I cannot remember. Oh, there's a guy who used to have a blog. I don't remember his name. He used to write about the sort of business end of Marvel and DC and whatever. And his sort of mantra was always like, these guys are just selling paper.
Yeah.
They don't care what's on the paper. That they have to put something on the paper is just an annoyance to them. And that's what it is with the silent partners behind Valiant. They're just looking to make, they're not creative. They're not even like when Marvel was going through its bankruptcy, and there were people fighting over who gets to own Marvel. Jim Shooter ran his own like little cadre of people to try and buy Marvel, because by that time, even the businessmen could have the vision to see what could be with Marvel, the movies and everything coming up. But most, like the businessmen behind Valiant, I guarantee they have no vision beyond making money right now. That's what makes them businessmen. They're not creative. The only potential they see in a company is the potential to make money now. Very few of them are which is why the ones who are called visionaries, who can see what a company could be and then bring it to that. That's like a rare thing. So that obviously wasn't around in those Valiant guys, because they drove it into the ground.
Yep. Fortunately so.
Yeah. Now everybody, every time somebody starts talking about Jim Shooter, what eventually comes up, he was writing comics at 13. So let's find out what the comic that he did at 13 was all about. I wanted to present it, but I'm not getting the button to work. So let's pick up the black and white comic and put myself on big. So this is the Showcase Presents with the Legion and the cover to Adventure Comics number 346, introducing these 4 characters. So these are Karate Kid, Princess Projectra, Feral Lad, and Nemesis Kid. And I think that the main reason that they decided that we're going to buy the story is because there was a bunch of new characters here.
He created 4 characters in his very first issue. No wonder they bought it.
Yeah, and it just to be on the safe side, because let's say they send the script back. Oh, this isn't ready. But then a couple of months later, let's make this guy fight karate.
Right.
And they don't know that Jim Shooter's 13 years old. But they could have ground for a loss. They would have ground for a lawsuit, because they wouldn't buy the comic, but then they create the character. So okay, let's buy the script, use the characters, and then we'll see. But they ended up liking it, so.
But yeah, no wonder they bought it. 4 new characters.
Okay, and as usual at DC at the time, there was the intro. The splash page was an intro of what was going to happen in the comic, and this is you can tell that this is not typical Kurt Swan, because you don't usually get this type of movement.
No,
it does look like Swan layouts, of course, but you really don't. You wouldn't think of doing movement on the page like this.
No.
And even on the first story page. Okay, so Shooter sent the script with a bunch of drawings that were used as layouts, and this is Cosmic Boy. Now, one thing that Shooter said that the Legion was doing, all of the characters had point and shoot powers, and they all just stood still and pointed at something, and then something else happened. But we have Cosmic Boy here with all this dynamic pose as he's using his magnetic powers. So this is Shooter.
This is what 13-year-old Shooter is adding.
Yeah, because he was reading all of Jack Kirby's comics and taking notes of what Kirby was doing, like this. You would see usually the characters in a three-quarter angle, so
Over
that
the
you could see a
shoulder.
little, over the shoulder, so that you could see some of the face. But no, here we have practically a POV shot of the new members presenting themselves to the Legion. So this is a Shooter copying Kirby.
Huh.
This is Ditko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Princess Project. This scene with Princess Projectra pushing illusions into their minds. This is Ditko. Look at those poses. This is Ditko. Shooter was copying Ditko poses so that Kurt Swan could learn how to draw. I will never understand why people think, oh, Kurt Swan was a wonderful artist. No, Kurt Swan was a boring artist. He was technically proficient, but he was about as inventive as somebody drawing stick figures. And you see more of it here, like here's Nemesis Kid coming in and he's running. Kurt Swan didn't do running. And it's just looks normal. But then here's more foreshortening and characters leaping off the panel. Kirby. Kurt Swan wasn't doing this. Shooter gives the guy layouts here from the bottom, from the scene from the bottom. Now Swan has a few poses, like a few shots from this angle in previous stories. But having the characters stand like this is Kirby. And then here's Feral Lad doing the energy halo being shot at. This is a Kirby pose. And then we have Karate Kid showing off his powers. This one. Kurt Swan didn't do this.
No.
And the whole fight sequence on this page. This is like that Strange Tales with the Human Torch and the fake cap that Shooter used as a way to explain storytelling. You follow the whole action, and it makes sense. Now the second part of the story becomes more normal, but even the Kunz. This kind of looks like a page from the monster stories when usually you have an alien conqueror, but it is more normal in the second part of the story. You do have this pose here because I like that. I like, but yeah, that's it. And the next issue. The cover's pretty good, but now Shooter doesn't need to give Kurt Swan layouts, and you have pretty standard action again. People just flying and standing and talking.
You know how I always described Kurt Swan's sort of layouts is he's one of those guys to whom the panel is its own individual stage.
Mm-hmm.
So each panel is like a stage, and he sort of composes the figures within the stage, but he doesn't give a lot of thought to sort of the graphic design of the page.
Right.
It's just here's a stage, here's a stage, here's a stage. And I always found that a little boring.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
No problem, SG. Thanks for stopping by. See you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Take care. I took a
Yeah,
quick look on my.
because he did he started from a 6-panel grid, and he did play around a little bit with it, and he would occasionally do a splash page or at least half a splash. There's a few crowd scenes where you have all of the characters doing something. That and he has that before shooter and after shooter. But that issue in particular, the way that all of those scenes are set up, it's all part of the layouts. That shooter just said, "Oh, okay, so let's draw the story like I would have drawn it," and copying all of Kirby's cool stuff. And you know that these guys at DC, they hated Kirby.
Yeah.
And you, and here's this 13-year-old giving them giving them Kirby layouts, and they don't even notice.
That reminds me too. I'm not much of a Kurt Swan fan, but if you ever see his original pencils, they're beautiful.
Yeah, of course I understand that, and there, like I said, there's a couple of pages here that the scenes are really good and good layouts. They're just boring.
Like I said, that's because I don't. Every panel to him it seemed like to me, was a stage. And what didn't always work together in a graphic design sense and a storytelling sense.
Like this page here, all of the characters are doing something. Okay, let's.
Right.
All the characters are doing something. And this is something that Kurt Swan knows how to do because he had done it before a shooter. And yeah, it's beautiful, but it's the rest. There's no sense of storytelling, which is what
I think that has to do with the story. Like DC was doing their stories for 8-year-olds. So there's a clarity to the storytelling that isn't adult.
Yeah. Every time I hear that, this is for little kids. They're 8, 10. No, they're not 8, 10. I read the first time I read a Marvel comic that made me like superheroes, I was 6. I read The Punisher when I was 8. And if I was around at this time, then I had to choose between Marvel and DC, I would have chosen Marvel at age 6 or 8 because I would be able to tell that Kurt Swan is boring and Jack Kirby's exciting.
Well, a lot of 8 and 6-year-olds did, but that was the adult version of what should be made for an 8-year-old. That wasn't we did a focus group and 8-year-olds like this better. This was, if we're making it for a 6, 8-year-old, we have to make it extremely clear and simple. They don't need sophistication. They don't need anything to be in doubt. They don't need anything to be blurry. They keep it as simple as possible. And if you're a little more sophisticated 8-year-old, you don't want simple as possible. You want exciting from Jack Kirby.
Yeah, if you're into action adventure, you always want to push the envelope a little bit as a reader or a watcher.
DC was also the best-selling comics by far, so you could see why they thought they were right.
Right. Howler Mouse, there's a Superman backup story in a Superman annual from the early 80s he plotted and drew. It was called I Flew with Superman. It's very cool.
The last story he did on Superman with Alan Moore was terrific.
Yeah. Yeah. But of course we know how Alan Moore writes. So.
Yeah.
Lefty, after last week's discussion, I read Box Office Poison this week.
I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'd like
tell me if you like it, because I want to not have an excuse to pick it up.
It's very New York City 1990s, too. What were you saying there, Wilson, before?
Oh, I went to my shelf to see if I can find any shooter books. Like, I couldn't find my trade paperback for Secret Wars, which I would normally have, or even.
That's right. He was a Secret Wars writer. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he wrote Secret Wars, as the legend goes, because nobody else wanted to write it, and so he took it on, and we get the story about Mattel is saying, all right, kids, we did a focus group, and kids like the word secret and wars. So put that together somehow in your pitch
I,
to do
I
these
remember reading
comics.
something about Shooter stealing that from the original writer because he thought it was going to be a hit. I don't know where I read that or if it's true.
What,
I'm
what
not
I
sure.
what I've read about was things like Mattel doing the focus group because Mattel lost the license from doing the DC characters.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, so what do we do now? They went scrambling, and it's like, all right, we'll get the Marvel license. And so I don't know who came up with the list of characters. It was just more of like, these are the popular characters right now. And from what I understand, the focus group said, yeah, boys like the word secret and wars. So it needs to be called Secret Wars somehow. Also, you got to update Doctor Doom's armor. There is no way we're going to we're going to have a medieval looking wizard in this book. So Doctor Doom gets the battle armor. And then they're off and running. I recently spoke to Dawn Guzzo about Jim's passing, and she's like, she just started working at Marvel, and she was working in the bullpen. And every time Jim came in, it was basically drop everything. We're working on Secret Wars, and that became the main book. And it is years later that I get stories from other people who worked on the book. So the main artist is Mike Zeck,
Right.
and it's inked by Jim Beatty,
John Beatty, yeah.
John Beatty. But when you look at the books, especially the ones in the later series, you see the art not being exactly up to par with Mike Zeck. And then you realize, oh, there was an all hands on deck to get those books done. So you had different inkers that never was credited that
Right.
were on there. I could point out on one of the pages what must have been inked by Art Adams.
Right.
And I was speaking to Keith Williams,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, and he talked about his time on Secret Wars, that like he was called in, a bunch of inkers were called in to work on these pages to get that project done. And so I was hoping I could find my trade paperback where I had it mark it, but I do remember the pages where you look at it and go, oh, this is a different artist, or at least this is a different inker, following maybe thumbnails that were originally done by Mike Zeck. And every now and then I'll find a unused cover of artwork that was rejected, and it's like, oh, I never got to see this. That's pretty cool. And there is, I think, a John Romita Sr. production ad that never got printed that he worked on that was supposed to be for Secret Wars. And I even have the original poster that was sent to comic book shops. It was so early in production for that poster to be made and put into the comic book shops. It doesn't even have the logo on it. It is just text that says coming soon, The Secret Wars. So it was before it was called Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars.
Focus group said kids don't like the word the. What are you putting that in there for? And how's Dawn doing? I haven't heard anything about her in ages.
She's doing all right. She says hello. I got an email from her this morning that if I see anybody she knows to say hi. So she's doing
Okay.
all right. She is working. Um, she's doing production work on Scholastic books, and we're both working on a book called Bendy, based on a
Oh.
video game.
Was she
So
still in Maine?
yes.
Okay.
Up in Maine, and she had recently sent me Gary's old Gary's old leather X-Men jacket that he used to wear all the time. So she sent that to me just recently, and I think she also had sent. This is an old picture of when they got married.
Look at that. Huh, huh.
Sent that to me recently as well. So I do speak to her, not necessarily daily, but we're still working on this project that should be done.
Right.
Like most of all the lettering stuff I've done has been done, so it's like we're waiting for the final colors and things like that.
Tell her I said hello.
I definitely will.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I did find from Valiant, funny enough, was this is after he left, but this is a trade paperback of Shadow Man,
Aha.
done in the same format of giving you a special issue that you could only get
Dark passages.
with the trade paperback, and I never opened it up.
Yeah.
It got put on the shelf, completely sealed, and I think that was only because I had bought the original issues.
Ah.
I bought this just to have the that backup story or that backup comic book. But yeah. So for me, I've talked about it how much I did enjoy Secret Wars because
Yeah.
it got me into reading comics in the first place. It ran you away, but
Ran me away.
but it got me into reading the comics and picking up the action figures from
Yeah.
Secret Wars. So I have just about a full set of these of only the figures released in the United States. There was 3 only ever released overseas that I never got. So those are my white whales, so to
Yes.
speak.
Secret Wars for me was the what year did it come out?
1983, I believe it first printed, or 84.
83, 84. So I was senior in high school, 17 probably, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with. I don't need to buy much Marvel anymore. I can stick with indie books. And Secret Wars was obviously aimed at a younger audience than
Oh,
17.
completely.
Yeah.
I was 12,
Yeah,
and so that worked perfectly for
right.
me. And it was like,
You're who it was for.
yeah. And then I remember clearly going out to look for Secret Wars. Lived in New Rochelle, and it's like I knew of it as a comic book first. Didn't know that there was a toy line with it until I walked into a Woolworths and saw those figures. And I had I had a little job at the corner grocery store where I was like, putting sodas onto the shelf and stuff like that. And so made a couple of bucks that way. And it was like, bought some of some of the toys for myself. So it was like, here I am collecting comics and buying toys. So
Woohoo!
it was perfect for me. And then 10 years later, I'm working at Marvel. So, you know, it all seemed to work out.
Yeah, I didn't buy Secret Wars when it came out here because the Brazilian publisher wanted to publish Secret Wars so that they could have toy ads. But the thing is, you publish when you get the rights to Marvel or DC, you publish a few years behind, and Secret Wars would be ahead in continuity, and there were issues there. For example, Professor Xavier had been cured, so he wasn't in a wheelchair. Storm had the punk look. Rogue was a member. The new Captain Marvel was in the Avengers. Rhodey had become Iron Man. The Fantastic Four costumes, they had already gone through the
Negative
through the
zone.
negative zone. So there were a lot of continuity issues that they had to deal with. So they altered things so that he could publish the story, and it was not until 1995 that they finally published the story as it was supposed to be.
Ah, now were like I know that some of the European books for Secret Wars were hardcovers. Did you get those as well, or you had a different set of books?
No, the Brazilians did digest. So it came out bi-weekly as a 36-page comic, still digest. Except the last one was probably 48. And then they didn't mix it up with the regular comics, which they did for DC. Crisis started in New Teen Titans, then moved to Superman, then moved to to the other anthologies, and it was here and there because if it affected all of the books, they would put the main crisis title in the middle of all the other stories. But with Secret Wars, they couldn't do that, and they wouldn't be. And it wouldn't because the it wasn't a crossover. It was its own miniseries. So it came out in its own title, and then they published it. And when they published it again, they had a Spider-Man book, which is functioned like Marvel Tales. They reprinted old stuff, and they were going to cancel it so that because there were now four. They were getting to the point where they had 4 Spider-Man books in the U.S. and they were getting to that point in Brazil. So they closed. The last 5 issues in the original format were they did Secret Wars with the original art and the original plot. They didn't change. They did a new translation. And so we finally got to see Secret Wars as it was meant to be, and they didn't have to come up with excuses on why everything was different, because now we knew it was a reprint.
Let me take a moment to show you a comic I really liked this week.
Let me just get a few more comics. So Captain Infinity is here. Hello, drinking coffee. Also, one of my favorite shooter stories was The Web of Spider-Man.
30.
An alien ambushes Watu, the Watcher, and he wages his freedom on a football game being played by Spider-Man and some kids.
I do not know that one.
Well, my favorite shooter stories is my favorite shooter story is the one is that short run of stories where Ultron kills the Avengers, and Wonder Man as that new costume that George Paris came up with that nobody liked. But I did.
That was the only guy. I enjoyed all those Avengers, Perez Avengers back in the day. That was
I did as well. I like that team up of Wonder Man and the Beast. They were always fun, and I didn't mind that Wonder Man costume. That was perfect. That safari outfit.
He had lots of.
No, it wasn't the safari. It was the Beezy one with all the green and yellow stripes.
The mainly green one with the weird pattern on the chest.
Oh no, I didn't like that one. No,
I did. I actually could draw that one.
I didn't mind it, but it was like
they were all. None of Wonder Man's costumes were great.
No,
they were always just kind of there.
Yeah, I didn't mind like his later issues where he had like the sleeveless shirt and the black shirt with the W on it. I didn't mind that. That didn't bother me.
And it was the late 80s, and he was in California, so
that makes sense.
He was one of the first superheroes with a jacket, too, I think. There was like a jacket era in the Avengers, but he was one of the first to...
Right. He didn't get jackets until the 90s, and he was wearing a jacket in the 70s.
Yep. He was ahead of his time. Like, I like that reddish jacket look. That I didn't mind. That I did enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me show you. Kevin Smith presents Archie Meets Jay and Silent Bob. This is the Francesco Francovilla cover.
Wait, you have Jay and Silent Bob, which means you have to have drugs.
Yes.
But then you have Archie, so we can't have drugs.
You do. Kevin Smith. Pencils by Fernando Ruiz. Inks by Rich Kozlowski, who is the Three Geeks guy from the 90s. Colors by Matt Hearns and letters by old bullpenner Jack Morelli.
Right. Fernando Ruiz.
I knew how to say that.
I haven't remembered them in years.
This was a lot of fun. They did a terrific job with this.
I need to pick that up.
First of all, it takes place in Clerks continuity after Clerks 3. So all the Clerks characters are old men. with these teenagers. And Archie comes in to get a job at the Quick Stop. And hijinks ensue. He's there with his boss is what's his name? Not Dante, the other one. Dante. Oh, how come I can't remember his name? This guy here.
I don't know.
And then there's the other goth kid. And hold on. Let me show you if I can show you this. Betty knees Archie right in the groin. And Jughead is like, hey, maybe I'll do some drugs someday. And they keep saying, wow, you guys have really bad language, the Archies keep saying to what's it? How come I can't remember his name? Jay and Silent Bob and
Randall.
Randall.
There we go. Randall. And it's just a lot of fun. It mixes because the Archies are pretty wholesome, but it still mixes Jay, but it still mixes in the cursing Jay and Silent Bob. They make some references to the Clerks movies. They go back to Riverdale to play with who's the band to play with the Archies who are opening for a big band. And what is it? Jay and Silent Bob smoke some Riverdale reefer. which is way more powerful than they were expecting. So definitely worth picking up if you're a fan of such things. Pick it up. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Snoochie Boochies, Archie fans, the greatest crossover ever is here.
Ever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
That'll go on the list. I need to pick that up.
And like I said, I got to say they pulled it off. I liked it a lot. There's lasagna references and that just reminds me. I was scrolling through TikTok, and there was a guy who's been. There's a Punisher. Yeah, that's from the 90s.
That's famous.
That is famous. That was written by Bat and Lash. And let's see if I can pull this down without knocking everything over. So that was written by Bat and Lash.
TikTok of someone who saw Clerks for the first time. And he was like, 37 blowjobs. If my girlfriend told me that, I'd take that to the grave. I wouldn't be telling anyone.
So this is the very first sketch I ever owned from Bat and Lash for Wilson Pray for Archie. And he was doing these sketches at the Comic-Con, at San Diego Comic-Con. And he basically wrote the issue, did thumbnails, but the book itself was drawn by John Buscema. And basically they reintroduced an old character named Starchy or something like that was supposed to be Archie's evil twin. So the Punisher was chasing after him. And then the Punisher mistaken...
Was Starchy like a Marvel parody from like Crazy or something like that?
I don't know. It's very well possible. 'Cause I just only remember that character existed. I just don't know if he was part of the Riverdale side of it or if it was something left over from one of the Marvel parody books. And it's very well possible. So that was like my first campaign in working in comics, doing convention stuff. And the first teaser item was the Punisher's scope and then the side of Archie's head, but it was a close up. So all you had was an orange field and the scratch marks that Archie has. that kind of that pattern that he has on the side of his head that Archie's famous for. And that was like the first teaser button. The next button was the Punisher's logo, but the face was Archie's.
Huh.
And those were like giveaway stuff that they did first. Um, Dave Ryan, artist on War of the Independents, and he's done other types of projects over the years. Dave Ryan was hired to dress up as the Punisher at one of these diners because 50s diners connects to Archie, and then they had Archie's mascot, which is just some guy dressed up like Archie but with a big head, and they were giving out these buttons at one of the local diners in New York City. And after that was like the announcement for that Punisher story. And so Bat and Lash, that's how I got to meet him. He wrote the story, and at the con, he was just doing those cards. He was just drawing those images to get out there, and it was fun. It was just a fun, crazy thing because the Punisher was kind of crossing over with everybody. Because after Archie, the book ends with him looking at the table, not the table, the train schedule, and the next stop was Gotham, and then they had the Punisher Batman story.
Huh.
Jared, are you going to get Archie versus Minor Threats with the Scott Koblish covers?
I think he's doing the whole book. I think he's drawing the insides too. But yes, I will be getting those. That's the Patton Oswalt project, I think it is. But yeah, I think Scott Koblish is actually drawing the whole book and not just the covers. But I think the first issue was solicited. I don't remember. Want to see another bit of Jim Shooter ephemera?
Oh, yeah.
This has been on my shelf, unread, since the early 90s, and I finally started reading it today. Whoops, my bookmark just fell out. This is Comics Journal. We have a number here. Hold on, got to put my glasses back down. Comics Journal 115. This is all about the Michael Fleischer lawsuit against the Comics Journal, and it's Shooter under oath.
Yeah.
So this is Shooter's whole testimony in the lawsuit that Michael Fleischer brought against Comics Journal and who's the author? Can't remember his name. Famous. He died a few years ago. He had a good YouTube channel before he died.
Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison. There we go. And it's interesting because Shooter is on Michael Fleischer's side. So Shooter is brought into the case to be an expert witness to explain how Michael Fleischer's reputation was harmed by that interview. And
I don't recall that case at all.
Oh, you don't recall that case?
No, the cover that you showed, I remember seeing that.
Okay.
But I don't remember that story at all.
The case was
what year was it?
1980, maybe? When was the actual issue? They kept mentioning the issue number of the Comics Journal, but I don't remember it now. You can take me off solo. I'm not showing anything else. I think it was 1980 was they interviewed Harlan Ellison. And have you ever read the Michael Fleischer written adventure comics with the Spectre?
Nope.
No, I don't believe so.
They were crazy, especially for DC Comics in the 70s. Let me see if do I have any over here? I have a couple of them.
Yes, if that was printed in the 80s, I
was
not. 1980, I was not reading comics yet, And like I never touched comics journals until probably a bunch of years later. So I had no idea that that even happened.
Well, what happened was, like, if you were to read these comics, you were like, "Oh, these are DC comics in the '70s," and most of the stuff happened off panel, but it was about this. This. They're some of the only DC comics I liked as a kid too. The Spectre was there's Spectre stories in Adventure Comics, and he was the spirit of vengeance, and he meant it. So people would actually die in the comics, and they die in creative ways. I remember a giant pair of scissors cut one guy in half. Another guy was cut into slices, like with a bread slicer. Like they were just kind of coming. I think Jim Aparo drew some of them too, but they were really. You were like, "Whoa, look at this! This is so cool." That's what I was like. But in the interview with Harlan Ellison, he talked about Michael Fleischer writing these comics, and he said something like, "Oh, that Michael Fleischer is one crazy son of a bitch," or something like that. I can't even remember what it was. Something that if someone said it about you, you wouldn't even notice because it was obviously meant to be a compliment. So when you call like a horror writer, if you were to say Stephen King, oh, that's one demented writer, that's not an insult.
No.
That's a compliment.
Right.
Well, Michael Fleischer did not take it as a compliment. And he got mad, and I think he started writing into the Comics Journal, mad at them for calling him that. And what basically happened was, have you heard of the term the Streisand effect?
Yes.
Streisand effect is when someone published a photo of Barbara Streisand's house that no one even noticed, but then she brought a lawsuit about it and everybody noticed. Streisand effect is when you don't want somebody to notice something, but you bring attention to it so everybody notices it. So I don't know that anyone would have noticed Harlan Ellison saying that and even Harlan Ellison's like, that's a compliment. What are you talking about? If Michael Fleischer didn't be so upset with it, he was so upset with it, he eventually had a lawsuit against Harlan Ellison and the Comics Journal for ruining his reputation. And fans just made fun of him, as you might imagine. Imagine if he were to do that today on the internet, how people would pile on him. Well, they piled on him in the letters page of the Comics Journal and at comic conventions. Whatever. When as a matter of fact, Jim Shooter was trying to be on Michael Fleischer's side and saying how his reputation is ruined. And one of the things Jim Shooter said that his reputation was ruined is he couldn't be, his fans didn't like him anymore. Now, I don't think fans didn't like him because he was a crazy SOB or whatever. Fans didn't like him because he was a whining complainer who didn't know how to take a compliment. And it was a joke to fans. I would imagine it was a joke to me back then when I read about it in high school. So Jim Shooter's on there being an expert in comic books and explaining to him how, and one of his big things is, we can't sell his books on the direct market because he was explaining the difference between casual fans on the newsstand and sort of hardcore comics fans on the direct market, and how he couldn't sell his stuff really on the direct market because fans didn't like him. And once again, he's saying fans didn't like him because of what the Comics Journal wrote about him, but I think fans didn't like him for his reaction to what the Comics Journal wrote about him. I don't think they ever saw that. But Jim Shooter also, I was like, talk about a bunch of old fuddy-duds. As Jim Shooter was talking about how when his name was mentioned at a Comic-Con, Michael Fleischer, he was just booed. And then who was he on a panel with? Let me see if I can find the right little piece. He was on a panel with a bunch of people who were all, yeah, Chuck Rosansky didn't care. He was trying to talk about how he's talking to distributors and what they thought of it. And Chuck Rosansky, well, Chuck Rosansky doesn't care. That was seemed to be the one there. It was like he didn't care. And there was some other distributor who cared a little bit. When I mentioned the name Michael Fleischer, he thought Michael was not someone who would have a positive impact on sales. Duh. He thought he was better than some and not as good as others. In terms of impact on sales, I don't think Chuck really cares about the quality of the work. Duh. He cares about who sells. Where is it? There's a great line in here that. Oh, here it is. The issue, it's Comics Journal 53. So if the issue of Journal, and this is from 1987, so this case dragged on for a while. So if the issue of Journal 53 came out in February of 1980, is it correct that the convention took place in the summer of 1980? So Jim Shooter is recounting a convention. Yes, as I said, the title was Morality in Comics. And this is in 1980, mind you, height of the Comics Code. Mark Evanier was the moderator. He opened with a statement condemning Michael Fleischer and his work. Talk about an old fuddy-dud. The very idea that someone who wrote the sorts of things Michael wrote would be allowed to do so. Oh, my goodness. He continued on that for a while. Then he turned over to the panel for comments and discussions. And I got to tell you, this has nothing to do with the interview. What followed was that they then took turns, starting with Marv Wolfman and working their way down the row. Marv carried on a kind of general condemnation and said people like that should not be allowed to do work for public consumption. Talk about old fuddy-dud. I mean,
wow.
The Adventure Comics were code approved. It's not like they were that twisted. Len Wein amplified that. Scott Shaw sort of condemned the idea of anything but general animals, but funny animal comics in general. So Scott Shaw condemned all their comics too. I find that funny.
Yeah.
Al Hartley didn't know Mitchell, didn't know his work, but what he said was, well, if all what they were saying was true, then he certainly agreed with them that sort of thing shouldn't go on.
Al Hartley was just doing Spire comics at the time, if he was still doing it.
Charmin Davano, and I don't think was terribly familiar with Michael or his work. She was mostly talked about what she thought comics should be. And B. Clibben was the only dissenting voice. He thought it was wrong to discuss someone like that who wasn't there to defend themselves. He called them Nazis and book burners. I'm like, I like him.
The obvious thing to do would be to walk around with a shirt saying, Arlen Ellison called me a crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you, and like I said,
put that on the cover.
They could have had that same like panel without I don't think that had anything to do with Harlan calling him a crazy son of a bitch.
Yeah.
That had to do with them being old fuddy-duds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
And was B. Clibben the guy who did that cartoon? Move aside, there's a cartoonist coming through.
I know
that
the image you're talking about, but I don't know if that was.
You know that cartoon. You've seen
I see it all the time. It always pops up on Facebook.
Yeah, I got it. I started posting the one with his signature on it. If it wasn't Clibben, it was something like Clibben. Someone look him up. Look up that cartoon. I don't know where I kept mine. I think I have it in my memes folder. But I always made sure whenever someone posted that on Facebook, I would immediately post the one with the signature because because people cut off his signature and I was like, make sure. And I like he called them Nazis and book burners. All right, he had the right idea. But like I said, I've been this whole thing is about that case in Jim Shooter. Like Jim Shooter is on Michael Fleischer's side, and I can understand his point of view. I just don't think it's true. I think that, like I said, the fans stopped liking him because, first of all, he was never a big writer.
Nope.
Who was a Michael Fleischer fan? I only knew him from those adventure comics, which were like 5 years before I even started collecting or something like that.
Savage Sword. It was Savage Sword of Conan, which is
Yeah.
why they asked Shooter
Right.
to appear at court, because here's the thing: if Savage Sword sold better in the newsstand than in the direct market, and nobody in the newsstand cares who is writing Savage Sword of Conan. It's
Let's
just
face it,
Savage Sword.
all of the Savage Sword of Conan writers were interchangeable anyway.
Yeah.
It was the art that sold Savage Sword of Conan.
Mhm.
I couldn't tell you. I read a lot of issues of Savage Sword of Conan. And like I said, at a young age, I learned to pay attention to the credits boxes. But I was buying them for the art. I couldn't even tell you who wrote the issues I read. You asked me to name a Savage Sword of Conan writer, Roy Thomas. I think he wrote some issues, right?
Yeah, Chuck Dixon.
Chuck Dixon. I was like, I couldn't even, because the stories were all the freaking same. It was the art that made Savage Sword of Conan.
Yeah, and apart from that, it's whoever.
Yeah.
Bernard Clibben is the artist of that that image you're talking about.
Well, right. So it is him.
So yeah.
Nazis and book burners. All right. I like him even better now. Do you know the cartoon we're talking about, Paolo?
No, I've never seen it.
It gets passed around all the time on my Facebook. It's a cartoon of a guy walking down the city street, and he's got his suit on, fancy clothes. He's got a hot woman on each arm, and there's a cop with a billy club in front of him, kicking some guy out of the way, saying, "Move aside, there's a cartoonist coming through."
So the text is, "Out of the way, you swine! A cartoonist is coming."
Even funnier than what I said. Out of the way, swine! A cartoonist is coming through.
When I search for Bernard Clibben, I get cats. Lots of pictures.
Maybe he
of
did cats. I only know him from that one cartoon.
Yeah, there's a bunch of there's a cat on a swing. There's a cat sleeping on the couch. There's a cat playing.
That might be his art style.
There's a cat playing a trombone.
The way you're describing it, I could almost picture those cat images.
Yeah.
Now this whole Jim Shooter cover, I just noticed little Annie Fanny's boobies poking through. Oh, there's Mr. X on the front too. Oh yeah, this is a Don Simpson cover. Yeah, 1987. I'm gonna have to do a video just looking through this magazine because I think it's got it's got Harlan Ellison's testimony too.
Here's the cartoon you mentioned. It's in.
You were able to find it. Okay.
Yeah. It's in a blog called Fudebaku blog, whatever that is. All right, so here it is. Yeah. Out of the way, you swine.
That's terrific. You can see why cartoonists pass that around.
Oh yeah. It's like, oh, look at that. At one point in time, we may have been respected. Maybe.
Let me see if it's in my memes folder.
The guy in the blog. So this is a blog post from 2008, and he said he cut it up from Clibben's obituary in a British newspaper. Yeah, but
Oh,
most of the things he's drawn are cats, apparently.
I have a note about a video. I haven't finished
There.
it, but I started watching in general about comic book stuff. It is a YouTube channel called Comics Rot Your Brain.
Hmm.
Guys ever heard of them?
I've heard of them.
And
I don't think so.
Comic Rots Your Brain, and they did a solo episode because I guess the guy usually is with someone else, and they go into Alex Nino as an artist, and they do a pretty good job just talking about the Filipino artists of the time period and about Alex himself, and I thought that was a very interesting um, clip it because it was like it was a lot of information I did not know about the Filipino artists of that time period because by the time I got into comics, they already had like they were all in comics and stuff like that. But Alex is one of those. I guess when we were talking about it the other day, a master without a masterpiece. I found that was interesting to watch. Put in the link and see if it pops up on as a ref. I thought that was pretty cool.
Will it let you share my screen, Paolo? Because I just found the cartoon.
Yeah, here it is.
There you go.
Here you go.
Out of the way, you swine. A cartoonist is coming.
I
And
like
kicking
the
a blind man, too.
completely kicking him because you can see he's selling his pencils and he has the cane and the glasses and the use of swine I think
Yes.
makes up so much for that.
Now, like I said, people would share this uh with his signature off, which always annoyed me. So I made a point to go and find the signed one, and go and share that with everybody. Whenever I saw the unsigned one posted, I'd share that one with them. Say, hey, post the signed one. So I like him better now. You shouldn't
Yeah.
be running him down. He's not even here to defend himself. Bunch of Nazis and book burners. I like him. I like how Jim Shooter remembered that too.
Yeah. Yeah, his blog was always full of a lot of nuggets
Oh
and stuff
yeah,
like
his
that,
blog was really good.
and he always had receipts. He kept every
Yeah.
piece of paper that he had from Marvel, so he would post those up as well, and those was always very fun to read. His Marvel year stuff because he would have pictures and official Marvel letterheads of this is what this person said. That's what this executive told us, kind of a thing. So
Right.
that was always a lot of fun.
Hope somebody archives his blog.
Yeah.
Well, it was Janet who was keeping the blog, who was maintaining the
Okay.
blog because Shooter said he didn't know anything about blogs, so
Right.
Like she would
we
definitely
need a
archive
book.
it.
We need a book.
Yeah.
I do remember Tony Isabella reacting to a couple of his blog posts, Pets on Fire and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go back and look at those.
Yeah, Tony Isabella always had a problem with that issue, with Shooter changing that issue of Ghost Rider.
Ah. Huh.
What did he change?
Isabella had written a story where Johnny Blaze would be saved by Jesus.
Oh yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, these companies get a little touchy when you put Jesus in as a character.
Why can't Jesus be a superhero? They did it, I think, at Image, which was amazing.
Right.
Oh
But
yeah,
this,
Eric Larson has.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Eric Larson
this
has
is
had the God and the devil fight.
Right. We're talking about 1974,
Yeah.
and those characters would be considered demonic.
Right.
No,
And
I completely understand that particular time period. I get it.
74, you had the Son of Satan. You had lots of demonic characters,
Mhm.
but not Jesus.
Uh,
Son of Satan. They don't even call him Son of Satan to that. You know, they don't even have a Son of Satan comic these days. He's now Hellstorm.
yeah.
Yeah. I have a cool name now.
Damien Hellstorm. Was it Storm or Strom?
It was Strom. It was Damon Elstrom, and he changed it. They changed it to Hellstorm. I think it was Warren Ellis. I'm not sure if it was Warren Ellis's idea or whoever the editor was. In the story, they have Damon is opening his new office, and the guy painting the name on the door makes a spelling mistake and writes Hellstorm instead of Hellstrom. And he says, "I like that. I'm going to keep it."
It's pronounced Steen, Hellstein.
Yep.
Eric P. is asking about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. Rite of Spring. This is the one that, you know, is done in this children's book style, but it's a horror comic about a serial killer. And we're supposed to sympathize with the serial killer. At least in the first series, we were supposed to. Because then the serial killer is this big teddy bear. You can take me off solo. I'm done showing this. But like in the first series, serial killer was this big teddy bear. But this other guy in town who wants to be a serial killer, this really creepy one. It's like the big teddy bear isn't that creepy. But this new young serial killer wants to partner up with him and they can serial kill together. Woohoo, look at that. But
Celebrate serial killers.
but the older, cautious teddy bear guy does not want to. So that one's all about their conflict. As the younger guy is trying to frame the older guy to get power over him. Now, this whole first issue is about a woman who's looking for her brother who disappeared. And I think the first one took place in Vermont too, because this one, she's in New York City looking for her brother. And I think the New York City used to be the hunting ground for the teddy bear-ish serial killer. So she's been there and she just got a note that says, check out this town in Vermont. So she went up there and found her first lead in years on her brother, who was a victim of a killer. Maybe it's her brother, maybe it's not. Now she's looking for more evidence. So I think this one is going to be all about her, at least so far, searching for her brother, who we know is dead. But how much sympathy are we going to have? Because like I said, in the first one, the serial killer guy was sort of the protagonist. How much sympathy are we going to have for him in this one, where the woman who just wants to find out what happened to her brother is the protagonist? So I enjoyed it thoroughly. The guy is a very good storyteller. The art style is interesting. So I'm like I said, I if you remember, I came to Beneath the Trees late. I think like issue maybe 3 or 4 out of, I don't know, I think it went 6 was my first issue of Beneath the Trees, because it was one of those that, you know, I missed out on. It became kind of hot. People on this show were recommending it to me. I saw people on YouTube. So I was like, you know, I jumped on with issue 4 or whatever, and then when it got, later printings of the early ones. So when I saw that one come out, I was like, all right. I saw that on Final Order cut off. I'm like, all right, it's going on the pull list automatically. So I enjoyed the first issue. I like the sort of different take on it. We're now following this woman instead of, like I said, it's a different dynamic they're setting up. So I'm interested to see what happens. Did you buy that one, Eric? We'll see if he must. If he's asking about it, he must have bought it.
Right.
Yeah, let's see. Yes, he got it.
Okay.
And I suspect the series will be like the Dutch film The Vanish. Oh, that dumb movie killed me. Have you seen the movie The Vanishing?
Does not sound familiar.
There was I guess it was Dutch. I thought it was French, but what do I know? And there was an American. There was an American one with, I think, Kiefer Sutherland. Did he star in it? It's about and they had different endings. The American one had a happy ending. The Dutch one had a sad ending. I think Kiefer Sutherland played the lead, and he was looking for he was driving cross country, whatever, stopped with his girlfriend, wife, I forget which, stopped at like a truck stop. She ran in to go to the bathroom to buy a drink or whatever. He was gassing up. She never came back. And, he spent the next, I don't know how many years, 4 or 5 years, searching for her, putting out flyers, driving around, stopping at truck stops, until he finally meets this guy who is like, if you want to find out what happened to your girlfriend, the same thing will happen to you. If I'll do the same thing to you that I did to her, so you can find out what happened to her. All you have to do is drink this. And he drank that, and then find out what happened. Somebody came up to me and said something like that, I would be beating them within the inch of their life. I would throw them in the trunk of my car, drive them to a secluded spot, and do whatever I had to do to get whatever the truth was out of them. I can't imagine drinking the drink and getting in the trunk or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, it's just.
But to spoil the end, I never saw the American one, but the Dutch one was super creepy. Yeah, it was creepy, but I'm just like, who would do that? But in the Dutch one, I can't even remember. They may have been gender swapped. Right? And the Dutch one, the woman was gender swapped. Whoever it was, maybe the dude gets in the car. Same thing. You may remember the commercial or the trailer with, I think it was Kiefer Sutherland waking up in a coffin with a lighter going. Well, in the Dutch one, the person in the coffin finds out exactly what happened to his girlfriend. He dies in the coffin, just like he gets buried alive and dies in the coffin, just like her. And the American one, of course, Kiefer Sutherland breaks out of the coffin. I don't know, he punches it or something.
Right.
And lives and gets the bad guy. But I'm like, what kind of lunatic would do that? What kind of lunatic would be like, I just can't imagine. Here, you want to find out what happened to her? Drink this, get in the trunk, and you'll find out. I'd be like, no.
No, not at all.
That's not going to happen.
You know what happened to her? You're coming to meet with me to the police.
Yeah.
You're getting in the trunk.
What? Maybe that's just me thinking I'm smarter than a serial killer.
Right.
I don't even remember what year that came out. Yeah, it was creepy. It was certainly creepy because the dumb, when you're yelling at the guy in the horror movie, don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
How would you do the dumb thing?
That's dumb.
Do we run to the garage where the car is, or run into the shed with all those pointy items in it?
Nowadays, you just take a picture of the guy.
Yep.
I'm going to look you up.
Basically, live stream. This person is the one who has
Yeah.
or knows the whereabouts.
But I think the idea too was those characters were so worn down by the search,
Right.
that they had nothing left in them. So they're like, yeah, all right. But yeah, The Vanishing. It could be something like The Vanishing beneath the trees, as she said. But like, I just can't imagine. That's such a movie thing. It's like human beings don't act like that in real life. Eric says the Dutch one was more arty and surreal. Yeah, it was fun stuff. Let me run through some comics before we run out of time real quick.
Okay.
We got the Power Fantasy, which is the one that's about the super-powered people trying not to fight, but guess what? They're headed towards a big fight. But it's very good. Enjoy it thoroughly. Last issue of Uncanny Valley. Oh, I have to show this one to Wilson. This is the one about the boy who's half cartoon.
Right.
And the people from the evil cartoon world are trying to kill him. He's trying to save himself. And then, where is it? His father, not He-Man, shows up.
Not He-Man, that's right.
Not He-Man.
Not
Nope.
He-Man.
Not He-Man, not at all. His name is Adam, but it's
Prince
but
of
it turns out
Eternia?
that's really his father. I forget what they called him, but it's not He-Man.
Okay.
A lot of fun. Radiant Black continues. Solid superhero comic. This guy is looking to hunt down Radiant Black and Savage Dragon.
Ooh, I got that issue as well.
Yep. This one's interesting because Savage Dragon's son, who's 9, decides he wants to be a superhero sidekick. So he convinces this guy, who eventually convinces him by beating him up.
Yes.
Because this guy doesn't have superpowers. And he's like, all right, you can be, since you're obviously going through with this, you can be my sidekick. But then bad things happen. You'll find out when you read it. But good issue.
I actually did read most of it on the train.
Okay. Did
So
you get to the end of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I read the whole thing. The only thing I didn't read was like that backup story about a Mako shark.
Yeah.
But I did read it, and what bothered me about it was the ending. Because of how powerful he is. Now, I didn't get if the people that he was dealing with at the very end had powers or dampeners or whatever.
No, I think they just had authority. So, but to tell you the end of it, the main story was, like I said, he convinced this guy to team up with him, and they were going to save these women from being sex trafficked. That's what they were going to do. So there were these 2 superpowered people who were sex trafficking these women. And the guy even said, we have to save these women before ICE gets them. Because they're all, once ICE gets them, that's as bad as being sex trafficked. They'll be put in some prison, sent somewhere. So during the fight, and keep in mind, Savage Dragon's kid is 9. He accidentally kills both of the villains. So he's all upset. This random hero, whose name I can't remember, is trying to calm him down. He's like, listen, it wasn't you. You don't know your own strength. You didn't mean to kill. But he's all upset. He didn't mean to kill these 2 villains. He's like, but you saved all the girls. But then, in Savage Dragon's world, During the first Trump administration, Savage Dragon moved to Canada because Trump was rounding up all the literal aliens as well as illegal aliens and putting them in prison. So Savage Dragon was like, I'm out of here. Let's go up to Canada. So we went up to Canada, and it was set in Canada for a good few years. But then recently, I think this is going to tie in too, he got an offer from the U.S. government to be on this superhero squad. So he went down and was on the superhero squad in San Francisco. But then when Trump got reelected, he shut down the superhero squad. So Savage Dragon lost his job. So now, after this fight happened, ICE showed up to take the women, and they took Savage Dragon's kid too. And he was like, what? Wait till my dad finds out. The guy was like, your dad will never find you again. I just think he was an upset kid who submitted to authority. That's all it was. He just killed two villains accidentally. He didn't want to kill cops who he sees as the police.
Right.
So I think that's why he let them take him.
Yeah. So for me, it was like, you just finished beating up these superpowered people. Why are you letting ICE grab you? But yeah, I was not thinking of it as the kid not fighting authority. I'm thinking it as, an older man that's like wanting to fight ICE kind of a thing. So, but again, very topical comic. It was really cool. And I think I also disliked that hero, who's, again, name I don't remember either, kind of like let it happen.
Well, he ran. At least he got out of there so he could tell
so
Savage Dragon. I think he's got no superpowers.
Right.
He's just like a guy with a cape. So I think he was in over his head from the beginning. Because like this superpowered 9-year-old wants to show you that he can handle himself, so he beats you up.
Yeah, and he would have lost that battle without the kid, because the female villain had the ability to hypnotize people.
Right.
It was just that was it Jackson Dragon was not affected. Yeah.
Right. So I think he did what was best in that he, like, you see him at the end watching ICE take away Jackson Dragon. I think him going to tell Savage Dragon is better than him trying to fight ICE, when he doesn't even have powers. So
that was definitely a fun one.
Yeah, it was interesting, but like an interesting story in this one. There wasn't even any Savage Dragon. It was all Jackson Dragon. Was Savage Dragon even on the? Where did I? I think he was at the very beginning, right?
He's at the beginning on a 2-page spread of like where he is. I guess what he was doing at the time or something.
Yeah, the Bay Guardian is the name of this superhero there. So I guess because he's in San Francisco, Oakland, he's the Bay Guardian.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the Bay Guardian even tries to like subdue Jackson Dragon with some experienced moves, but it doesn't matter. Jackson Dragon just kicks his ass.
Way too powerful. So I'll run through my books at the end here. Transformers issue number 22.
Is that Starscream?
I think it's Starscream. It looks a lot like Starscream, peeking in on probably the Joes, or at least the an army situation. Although G.I. Joe is in this universe as well. Godzilla Heist, issue number 5.
Yep, that's one I got last week.
Yep.
End of this heist.
Yes. Amazing Spider-Man issue number 7.
Have you read any of those yet?
Not yet. I did read the issue before, because they are introducing this new character into the series. Let's see if they name Hellgate is the name of the character.
Hellgate. I've got an axe with mini axes in it.
Yes. So
how to make an axe harder to draw.
Nice 2-page spread of Spider-Man being chased by this guy.
J.R.
Another guy,
Jr. art?
yes, J.R. Jr. and Scott Hanna, or at least that's the cover of the team. Yes, and is written by I think Joe Kelly. Yes, Joe Kelly wrote it. Uh, Godzilla, Here Be Aliens.
Issue 2.
Little mini Hedoras all over him.
Huh.
Power Rangers Prime issue number 8. Not tell you what's going on there at all. Uncanny X-Men issue number 17. Just because I like the way the cover looks, and I thought,
Okay.
it has both 60s and a 70s kind of style to it. And I kind of wanted to know what was going on in the X-Men books, so I figured I'll give this one a try
Why not?
to check it
It
out.
looks like the Neil Adams era trade dress.
Yes, it definitely does. Then Godzilla versus Thor, issue number 1, and I got the Walt Simonson cover because if you're going to get an issue of Thor, you're going to want Walt's artwork on there. So, and it's cool that he got to draw Godzilla on there. So, and I heard this was a really good issue. And just because it's a number 1 issue and it's connected to the movie, Fantastic Four, First Steps.
Okay.
Kind of drawn to look like Fantastic Four issue number 1. What I
Where are
like
the
about it,
ropes?
what I like about it is that it says it's licensed, fully authorized through the Future Foundation. So it's taking the joke of that the Fantastic Four does have comic books and they license their stories to Marvel. There's even an ad in the back for whatever the in-world soda is. And then the book is basically written and put together as if it's in the universe to the from the Future Foundation. So they're basically it is part of the movie project type stuff.
So the Future Foundation licensed a movie and then licensed a comic book from that movie?
I think so.
Oh, look at that.
I think that's how it's working. Or that the movie we get is in universe, and then this would be something that they would have printed in that universe. And
Okay.
even the ads are like, you could join Johnny Storm's fan club. Yeah, it's just done in that retro 60s style. And you have a nice drawn Fantastic Four story that's kind of retelling the story of dealing with the Mole Man, I would guess. Even advertising the car. And like in the comic books, in the older comic books, Reed licensed a whole bunch of stuff, and that kind of funds the Baxter Building and stuff like that. And then they treat it like, one of those magazines from the time period of the '60s, where Johnny's the heartthrob, and they have interviews with him. One more ad. Okay, no, that was it. So it pretty much is I'm guessing an origin story type of thing for the movie Fantastic Four. And there was quite a bunch of different covers, but this is the one that I liked itself, even though there is no ropes drawn on them or cover text. That seems to be missing. And then that's mainly it. The rest of the books I have here are more of the catalog. So we got the DC
catalog.
Connects, the IDW one that has Star Trek on the cover, Marvel's catalog with Batman on the cover, so the crossover event is starting. And then on the back cover is the Age of Apocalypse. So they're revisiting that universe because the anniversary is up. And here's from Image.
David Kirkman, David Finch, Robert Kirkman, David Finch, Stormbreaker.
September 2025. Yes.
Okay.
Or Skinbreaker.
Skinbreaker. There we go.
Skinbreaker. Yes. Text is a little hard to read logo-wise. They could have just separated just a little bit, but they were going for some sort of style. And what
I said, by the way, in this issue of Uncanny Valley, not He-Man is named Battleman.
Battleman, that's fantastic. And I don't know if this was just put into the box or it came with one of the comics, but I got a Justice League card. Like as if I was a member of the Justice League. But this one actually belongs
there's a QR code on it. Maybe that'll tell you what it's for.
It probably will. And here's is Aquaman's card. So Aquaman lost his card, but I'll check the code later. This says Watchtower security card. So it's probably for a video game, I would guess. So I'll check out the QR code later and report back. But that is my stack of comic books that I got this week.
By the way, in that shot with not He-Man is not Jen and the Holograms, not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not G.I. Joe,
Voltron.
Not Ewoks, not My Little Ponies, not Transformers, not Voltron. Those are just the ones I recognize. There's more.
But I think they can use Betty Boop.
Not She-Ra. Good, nice ending on this. Nice, fun ending.
And that was the last issue of that series?
That was the last issue, 10.
Oh, okay.
So you should be able to get it in a couple of trades or maybe one big volume.
Interesting that it ended on 10.
I think it was originally only supposed to go 6.
Oh, okay.
2025 Eisner Award nominee, Best New Series. Look at that. Got an Eisner nominee.
Nice.
At least I don't think there's going to be any other issues. I don't know. Because it said end, or did it say end? It said something like that. It said to be concluded last issue, I think. And this one says the end. So, there's no editorial material to say this is the last issue because it's Boom. They don't give you editorial material. I got no time for that.
No, it's Boom. Explosion happened. Got to keep going.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, I think we can wrap up.
We can wrap up with some balloons.
That's right.
Sounds good.
Hope you liked our retrospective on Jim Shooter.
Yeah. Some giant Superman comics.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of fun stuff this week.
Tales of old Marvel hearsay mostly.
Next week.
Probably be on my channel.
Mm-hmm.
Next week.
Yeah, it resets.
July's
resets
moving
on the
right
15th.
along.
Yeah, it resets on the 15th. So.
Okay, so that is. Yes, I have two more. One more Friday. So that's the 18th. On the 25th, I'll be at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Ooh.
So that'll be 6 o'clock over there. No, that'll be 3 o'clock over there. So I'll see if I can try to come in, but I don't know how kind of reception I'll have.
Now see if you can check in.
Yes, I'll see what I can do.
What day are you leaving?
I am leaving the 23rd, which is a Wednesday.
Okay.
And I won't be back until the 28th. Is a
nice.
Monday. Actually, I probably won't be back till the 29th because it's one of those early morning flights where I start in late evening over there and then get here early in the morning. So red eye.
Okay.
All right.
That's cool.
All right.
In
Very
that
cool.
case,
Everybody have a good night out there.
Have a
thank you for
good
staying with
weekend.
us.
Take care.
And we'll be back next week on Jared's channel.
Mm-hmm.
Bye bye.